Alright, let's look at the homework 10.2, problem number 6. Alright, so let's find the tangent line equations. Alright, so first we need to find the, let's see, the derivative. So we want to find the dy over dx. Alright, but we can find it by taking a derivative of y with respect to t first and divided by the derivative of x with respect to t. Alright, so the derivative of y would be, right, so you have a sine of t and a cosine of t. We can probably use the trig identity. This is actually the same thing as sine of 2t. So the derivative is going to be cosine of 2t, then multiply by derivative of 2t, which is going to be 2. So it's going to be 2 cosine of 2t. Alright, and the derivative of x would be 3 negative 3 sine of t. Alright, so the point in this case, let's say I'm going to write down the point. And so first piece of information we need is a point. And I'm going to call it x1 comma y1, and which is actually given to be 0 comma 0. Alright, and then 2. We need to find the slope. Alright, I'm going to call it m. Alright, so let's find the t value corresponding to the point 0 comma 0. Alright, so we have, so x is equal to 3 cosine of t. Alright, so we want this guy to be 0. Alright, so in order to cosine to be 0, so t is going to be, right, it's going to be pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2 and so on. So I'm going to just do pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2, and the next one is probably 5 pi over 2 and so on. Alright, and that will definitely make the y equal to 0 because the y has actually a cosine as a part of it. Alright, so at t equals pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2, we're going to get the 0 comma 0. Alright, so I'm going to use, let's try to use a pi over 2. Alright, so it looks like we have multiple slopes. So I'm going to use, I'm going to call it m1. Alright, m1, I'm going to use t equals pi over 2. Alright, so I'm going to plug in pi over 2 there. So you have a 2 cosine of 2 times pi over 2. So I'm going to put pi here. Alright, then you have negative 3 sine of pi over 2. Alright, so sine of pi over 2 is 1, so it's going to be negative 3 on the bottom. And cosine of pi is negative 1, so it's going to be negative 2. So we got the 2/3. Alright, and I'm going to try another one. So m2, we'll probably get the different value. Say if you try 3 pi over 2. So it's a 2 times cosine of 3 pi over 2. So going to put 3 pi over 2 is going to be 3 pi. Alright, and then you have a negative 3 sine of 3 pi over 2. Alright, sine of 3 pi over 2 is negative 1, so you're going to get positive 3. And the cosine of 3 pi is still negative, so it's a negative 2. Alright, so we have a negative 3 halves. Alright, so you have a smaller slope, so I will take negative 2/3. So negative 2/3. then since it goes through the origin, so y-intercept is 0, so it's going to be just negative 2/3 x. Alright, so when m1 slope is 2/3, you're going to get the 2/3 x. Alright, so let's type it in. Alright, so we're going to have a smaller slope. We're going to have negative, right? So click on that. So it's negative 2/3 x is the smaller one, and the bigger one is positive 2/3 x. All right. So let's look for the picture that has the correct tangent lines. All right. Number 2 is going to be not right, and number 3 is not even going through the origin. So it's going to be either first one or second one. Alright, so this one has a slope bigger than 1, so that's not going to be it. And maybe first picture is the correct one. Alright, so let's submit for testing. Alright, it came back and looks like we got the equations correctly and we got the picture correctly. Alright, that's it. I hope that this was clear.